another compliment. There she is. Welcome to Hot Mics. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, notification bell, everything within reach. Today is a special day. One of the most gripping documentaries I've seen recently is called In Waves and War, and it came out in 2025. It shows the promise of psychedelic-assisted treatment for wounded Navy SEALs, guys that we treasure for what they've given. And, right after that, recently, Donald Trump, did what no one saw coming, an executive order, expediting this type of work in our country, not, just across the border. But Marcus Capone is a Navy SEAL, and he's at the forefront of this. He's the main character in Waves and War. Take a look at this. And then we will welcome Marcus and his wife, Amber. Take a look.
At first, I was just wondering, when is this going to start? The medicine brings out things it wants you to see, and you don't know why. I had a lot of stuff to work through. Navy SEAL training is one of the most demanding things on the planet.
It was like being drafted and going to the Patriots. It was everything I ever wanted.
The worse the place was, the more we wanted to go.
It felt like Russian roulette. Every time he would leave, he may not come home.
Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
We got discovered.
I can't fire back because I can't see anybody.
I thought my arm was gone, and I can't feel anything.
Blood and bullets spewed all over that thing. Just...
You go overseas and you see half your platoon get killed. We're not supposed to leave them.
I was just begging. Can you please help him?
The TBI and with the memory loss, I'd meet someone, I don't know what your name is, no idea.
He was doing all the things he was told to do, and he was actually getting worse. I got his medical records. I completely changed my approach. Psychedelic medicines proved to be effective, but both are illegal in the United States. So Marcus would have to travel to Mexico.
If you love your wife, you'll go to Mexico and do psychedelics.
All the body armor you put on, that all goes away.
My brothers, my teammates, you deserve to be happy and live a good life.
This is just one of those points in medicine where I've got to have the courage to jump.
That medicine takes you right to the crest and you fall off.
You get into this line of work because we feel like it's who we are. Who the hell am I now?
Oh, it's so good. And if you know me and have been a listener of Hot Mics, you know how I feel about psychedelic-assisted therapy and treatment. And not just for, wounded vets. This is what In Waves and War is about. But it has the potential to be game-changing like nothing we've ever seen in our world. So with that, I'd like to welcome Marcus Capone, Amber Capone, an incredible couple who are on this journey and at the forefront. Guys, did you have any idea that documentary would have the effect that it's having, leading all the way to the Oval Office when you set out to do it?
I don't think we ever set out to do really anything but pay it forward. I had a successful treatment through psychedelics in 2017, and really all we want to do is help our friends. I had friends at the time that started reaching out and that were struggling, and I had found something that worked for me, and we wanted to pay it forward. That was the mission. It was a pure grassroots effort that turned into a documentary and a executive order signing, but those things we never had in our mind from day one. We just wanted to treat other friends, really. It was really friends. It wasn't about anything, about growing anything. It was just, how do you help others with something that worked? And I thought I found something that radically worked, compared to, you know.
I'm sure you'd never thought of doing psychedelics before to help with you know, PTSD and things that you're feeling and depression and the stuff that happens. Who pushed you towards this?
I mean, you know, I grew up on Long Island, New York. I went to all boys Catholic high school in Queens. You know, drugs were bad. And when Amber approached me, probably about a year earlier, with psychedelics, I mean, the first thing I turned to her, I kind of laughed and said, are you kidding? Like, is this a joke?
Well,
how could a recreational psychedelic drug help? Because I had already been to brain clinics and prescription medicines, and like, we listen to our Western doctors because they're smart and they went to Harvard and Stanford, and
Right.
And I thought this was a little crazy, honestly.
I did approach him with it, but honestly, Billy, it was like I didn't even know that ibogaine was a psychedelic. I wasn't putting it together. Our family was in complete survival mode, and a friend of his had an experience in Mexico with ibogaine, similar situation to us, you know, in terms of being in crisis, and reported that it saved his life. And his wife said, I think it could be really helpful for Marcus. And so I began working with him behind the scenes and did approach Marcus with it. And he was like, absolutely not. This is crazy. There's nothing I can get in Mexico that I can't get here in the US. Little did we know that is not accurate.
She talks, it's ibogaine is what the documentary, you know, centers on. There's lots of different psychedelic treatments, but ibogaine is from the iboga plant from Gabon in Africa, this country. It's the psychoactive element, right? Yeah. Ibogaine. You know, Joe Rogan has talked about it. What were you, Amber, what were you experiencing with Marcus? Were you watching him deteriorate? Were you watching him just, you know, like a one-legged duck swimming in circles, not going anywhere? What was concerning you?
Kind of all of the above, except what was really concerning to me was that there was a neurological decline, there was a cognitive functioning issue that didn't seem to fit what he was being diagnosed and treated with, which was PTSD. I could see that he was really doing everything he was told to do. He was not getting better. And we had been spending up to 300 days a year apart when he was in the military because of deployments and deployment cycles, workups, et cetera. And so there really wasn't enough time to assess while he was active duty. When we transitioned to back to civilian life, it was like, well, what is causing the problem? Is it really PTSD? Is it this neurological component, which the film does touch on alongside Stanford University? A lot of the SEALs and families in our community were suffering, and we didn't quite know why.
And Marcus, were you, like when you were deployed and you were always going somewhere, always doing something, you know, intensely focused on the job, you know, as a SEAL, is this when you got home sort of now where do I go? And were you like locking yourself in the room?
Yeah.
Were you not participating in society? Were you...
All the above, Billy. So, you know, when we were deployed, we're just even working in that environment, you're going 100 miles an hour from day one. So you never stop. So I don't think you ever even have the opportunity to, if you want to call it be present, right? You're just always on the go. And I think once you stop, once you kind of get off that bullet train, the train keeps going, you all of a sudden start, I guess, you know, feeling different than when you were going 100 miles an hour. And for me, you know, I left the military, I got in the private sector. I was starting to have a lot of symptoms while I was on the tail end of my career, but I didn't think anything of it.
Like what? What were you?
I think it was, I started isolating a lot towards the tail end of my career. Like you said, it wasn't like I was locking myself in my room, but I was staying at home. I wasn't answering text messages. I didn't really want to see the guys. I wasn't into my work anymore. I really wasn't into anything anymore. You know, workouts started to become a burden. I love to surf. I love to play golf. Didn't really love to do those things. So I think depression started really kicking in. And I just thought this was normal. And like us guys, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to ever say that we're struggling. But finally came to a point, one of the guys I worked with said, hey, you should probably go see go talk to the command psychologist. And I went in there hesitantly, and he said, you know, Marcus, I don't know what you guys have, but this is not weird. And he goes, you're about the 200th guy that's come in here over the last couple of years with the exact same symptoms. He's like, you guys are isolating, you're having trouble with sleep, you guys are getting headaches, you're having trouble at home, you're obviously drinking a lot to either cope or, to numb out whatever you're dealing with. He goes, I don't know what it is. He's like, I'm just going to assume it's PTSD, right? He's like, we're in the military, that's what you get. You go overseas, you fight, you see your friends die. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure some of it was post-traumatic stress, but as Amber mentioned, like there's also a brain component to it, right? Where, you shoot thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds, or like me, if you're a breacher, you're constantly around explosive, subconcussive blows, or if you've been in, a concussive incident. And so I think all these combined, you're not yourself. You're not like the old Marcus was, and that's what I was dealing with, really.
Now it's take out the trash, just regular life.
Life comes back to being normal, which we never had to do, right? We never had to fix.
You're not built for normal life the way you've been.
It's not what we
Walk
want
the
to
dog,
do.
Marcus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so I think it comes crashing down at some point. And professionally, I was doing okay, but also I was struggling there too, right? Everyone can see like I'm having outbursts and I'm angry and I'm upset, and I could be in Starbucks and break down crying for no reason. So like I was just going through this emotional state, and that happened, that lasted for years. And so the standard of care is antidepressants and mood stabilizers, right? And what they're supposed to do is help with some of these symptoms, but it's really not getting to the root cause of what we're dealing with.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so if you never get to deal with the issue, you're going to have those issues forever.
You're just
no
going to
matter
be
how many
maintaining
Band-Aids.
or
100%.
suppressing for the rest of your life. And Amber, I got to, here you are, he's gone 300 days a year. You're saying, okay, when this is over, I have been very patient. I'm looking forward to a great relationship with my husband, and you owe me. And all of a sudden, here's this dude not participating in this relationship as much as you'd like. And I have to imagine you're at your wit's end. Were you ever close to saying, I'm out? Goodbye?
Oh, I was definitely close. In fact, I had decided I was out. At one point, both of our kids had expressed that they didn't want to live in the home under the current circumstances anymore. And I thought, it doesn't matter how tough I am. I'm forcing them along on this crazy ride. They've already been through enough. A lot of their friends' fathers didn't come home, or many of their friends' fathers didn't come home from the war, and this is the hell that we're living through. It was just torture, honestly. And I had decided to leave, and I thought, if I leave, this will remove the final stabilizing thing in his life. He's already lost his community, he's lost his purpose, he's lost everything that has mattered to him over the last decade plus. Now he's going to lose his family. And that almost seemed like a guaranteed recipe for disaster that would be with my kids for the rest of their lives. And I thought, I've got to try this one other crazy thing. And so I just approached him in a new way. I approached him in love, and said that I would fight with him every day for the rest of my life if he would just fight with me in a new way and try something that did seem crazy. And that got him to go, and everything changed. I didn't know if it would work or not. I felt like it probably wouldn't work because nothing had worked. And so when it did, it's like, oh my gosh, well, what is this reality that I wasn't prepared for? And immediately he wanted to pay it forward to his friends.
And Billy, I was hesitant, but
Probably scared to lose control, Marcus. Like, you're a guy that has to be under control, and you're an alpha. You're in situations where you are. If you're not in control, shit goes wrong, and it's death. Yeah. And here you are having to. I bet the fear of releasing your mind to where you cannot control events. Right. It's just taking you somewhere. Yeah, that had to be scary.
It's really scary, but at the core of it, I'm a loving individual. I'm a loyal individual, and Amber and I had a really incredible connection for many years, and I loved my kids. I loved our family. I would have done anything to keep us together, to keep us going. I never saw myself alone, and I thought that would definitely be a recipe for disaster. There was many times I contemplated taking my own life, to say, what, if I remove myself from this situation, Amber and the kids, who deserve it, because like you said, who signs up to have their husband or their father gone forever. Like most people don't do that. And I was looking for any way that I can just be normal again. I just wanted to be at peace. I talk about, not like hippie peace, but like just be at peace, right? Not have to worry, not have the anxiety, not have the pressure that I was dealing with, not have the depression. I didn't want to live like that forever. And like I said, if you would have came to me with something Wazoo and said, I think this would work, I would have tried it at that time, because again, I was listening to who I thought were professionals and experts in their field, and it just wasn't working. And I feel like I was getting worse. So I wasn't getting better.
So you go to Mexico and you do the ibogaine treatment.
Do this crazy ibogaine treatment. And
what was it? How long did it last?
It was long. Everyone's different, but the peak experience is about 6 to 8 hours. So you got 6 to 8 hours in it, and if you saw the documentary.
When you say in it, what? Take us there.
You're at like the peak of this psychedelic experience where, first off, you feel like it's going a million miles an hour. You're just getting inputs and pictures and visions, and they're going so fast, and like you almost can't keep up. It's almost overwhelming, and it's an emotional roller coaster ride. So parts of it is extremely intense in terms of scary. So there was a lot of like images that I didn't love. They were kind of, darker,
demonic
and kind of bloody, and like just like stuff that's not fun to watch. But and then some experiences it would lighten up. So there's music playing the whole time, and a lot of times the music takes you into that place. So if there's a little bit heavier music, it gets a little bit more intense and scary. And then the lighter music, it would always bring me back to my family. So it would bring me back to Amber and the kids, and it was like giving me a rest. It was like, hey, it's time to like just be a little bit more present. And that was the moments of peace during the ibogaine experience. Even at the peak, I'd have Amber and have the kids, and we'd be like arm in arm, and kind of, that was like, it was
so it's showing you what you can have, but you got to get through this.
Right. And so what
this is where you're going to go, but you got to get through this.
But here you are, and you're like, oh man, I have everything I need right here. And what it showed me was the only thing I really need is my family. Like that was our core. And then here's what you're dealing with, right? And you deal with all the crap during the experience, and there was images of like childhood and stuff I was dealing with at home as an early age, and then there was a bunch of wartime stuff, and I lost one of my best friends. And so you see all these images, and then it goes back to the family. It's like, hey, yeah, all that stuff is great, and it was hard, but like this is what you got. And towards the end of the experience, the drug kind of wears off a little bit, and the intensity goes away, and you feel like, whew, I just got forged through fire, and I feel I'm so happy that that's over.
Yeah.
And you're up all night. They call it purging, but let's just be real. Like I was puking all night, and I had a therapist with me the whole night. She slept at the foot of the bed, and she actually said after the experience, she said, Marcus, I've been facilitating these treatments for 20 years. She's like, I got to be honest, I've never seen anybody have as tough an experience as you. And I kind of laughed at that, as you were saying. Like I was like, I took that as a badge of honor. Like I won.
Yeah,
I won. My
fight.
experience was the hardest, right? But I finally got to sleep. Let's say 12 to 16 hours later. So you're up all night, and physically it's really demanding, mentally it's demanding. And I got to sleep, and when I woke up, I felt like the whole world just lifted off my shoulders. I was like, I'm good. So it was
one treatment.
So it was like one treatment in a 24-hour period where I felt like, aha, I got it. Like I felt like this awareness. I felt like I knew exactly what I had to do. I couldn't wait to see Amber. Like I felt like, because I saw her and the kids the whole time during the experience, and every time I saw them, I felt love. I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I felt so bad for so many years of putting them through all that stress and all the trauma, and the friends that were killed overseas, and the children that, our children that had to experience it. And Amber had to literally dress some of these spouses, for their own husbands' funerals. And I put them through that, and I said, you know what, it's okay. You shouldn't have any guilt. You shouldn't have any shame. Like you should just move on. And Amber came in the next day. I saw her, we hugged, and I just said, I didn't even say I'm better. I just said, this is what the guys need. Like this is it. And so we got to figure out a way to bring this forward to them.
So you were down there with him?
Yeah, I dropped him at the airport, and I just remember being like, thank God he's out of the car, because his energy was so bad. And then it hit me like, oh, this is it. Like, this is it. If this doesn't work, I have nothing left. Like, there's all chips on the table. And so for the next, I don't know, day or so, I was sitting with this realization of, if this doesn't work, I have to leave. You know, this is a huge, huge undertaking after all these years. I knew Marcus before he was a SEAL, before there was a war. You know, this was, he had become someone that I didn't recognize anymore. And in going to see him at the clinic, I knew that I would know right away if it had worked or not.
Oh, woman's intuition, forget about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you're walking in going, do I have a future with this person or not? So what was your first encounter with him?
Well, first of all, I got on the flight, and the whole way there, I was like, why am I on this flight? This is like all or nothing. And then I got in the car to go, and I was like, I can't go. I don't want to see him. I cannot see him. And our friend's wife had picked me up. She was driving me there, and she said, no, you don't understand. He's asking for you, I guess because of the experience that he had had the night before. She said, you have to go. We gave him our word that we would bring you. And so I walked in, and I heard him walking down the hall. And when he came around the corner, it really was like seeing him before all of this, before the war, before, you know, he was in the SEAL teams. His
Did he
countenance
look
was
different?
Yes, he looked different. He interacted different. His entire presence was exactly how I remembered him. I met him when I was 17 years old. Like, you know, we had grown up together in so many ways. And of course, 9/11 happened. None of us were expecting this. He graduated SEAL training the month after the towers came down. So we had to adapt really quickly. And there was this righteous anger I was so proud of him. I was really, really, you know, I wanted him to be able to get in the fight and defend our country. And I never thought that it would go on for as long as it did. And so it just started to chip away at our family until we had become unrecognizable. So to get back to that feeling of when I first met him was quite surreal.
How about that first hug? Was it I imagine hug was the first thing that happened.
Yeah, I remember that.
Could you feel his energy different?
Oh yeah. It was.
Did you know right away we're gonna be okay?
I knew from the second he came around the corner, because that energy of I can't wait for him to get out of the car. It was like completely 180 of that. He was safe. You know, he was himself again.
I just felt connected when Amber and I hugged. Like, I felt like we were connected. I mean, we had hugged over the years, but it was very superficial.
Yeah.
And there were so many times, I mean, we couldn't even be in the same room with each other. And I just felt like I didn't want to let her go. And I just felt like, again, like this unconditional love, this presence that I never had. And if you talk to some of our friends, I mean, some senior religious leaders in Texas, they're telling stories now. They said, Marcus, do you remember when you were in my house? Like, your eyes were just black. Like, you just looked like you weren't even there. And like Amber said, she can see like this glow in my green eyes, and like everything just looked.
Everything shifted.
Better. And, you know, and again, it wasn't just Amber. It was, you know, so many people that I engaged with on a regular basis said, dude, you look different. You are different. Like, what'd you do? And that's when we started having conversations with friends. I mean, I got off the phone with two of my former SEAL Team 6 buddies who got off the phone with me and said, they turned to each other in the car and they said, I think Marcus went crazy. And then one of them a week later called me up and said, hey, I need that treatment that you did. Like, I'm really struggling. And then the other guy called a month later, right? So, you know, and that's how
seeds were planted.
Seeds were planted, and then they started telling their friends, because the same thing, we were all seeing therapists. Many of us were on prescription meds. Many of us were on antidepressants, which, as we know, have horrible side effects. And nobody was really getting better. Everybody was kind of, Amber used the term white knuckling life, not really living it, not really engaged in it. And I just think this brings you back. And, you know, I want to make it a point, Billy, that like, not everything was great forever after. Like, what's a one and done? But this was like the catalyst that.
It was a tourniquet.
Yeah, it was it. It was the tourniquet. And then, you know, after I had periods of depression that I worked through, but it was nothing like I experienced before. I can go days or weeks really depressed and really not coming back. And then after the experience, I might have like a day or half a day where I was not feeling good, and I would just kind of work through it and go, oh, you're fine. Like, everything is good. And it was able to bounce back a lot quicker.
So it took away a lot of the swings, right?
It took away,
before
like,
it's like,
and
once
then
you're
you'd stay there
down,
forever.
you just can't get up.
Yeah.
100%.
But that had to be a fear after you have this incredible experience, you hug your wife, you feel at peace, that going away.
Right.
Like that going away.
You want to stay there forever.
Terrified, like, how long does this last? Please don't go away from me.
Yeah.
And then, did you have an integration expert, someone who can say, okay, Marcus, it doesn't mean you're like now,
Absolutely.
Pooping rainbows for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to have downs, and this is how you handle them?
100%. And I think that's the biggest part of these psychedelic treatments that's so important.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, underground and kind of shady practices that are happening. We got to remember, the reason, and I know we'll get into the executive order, but the reason the president, the administration is behind it, and now so many real scientists and researchers is because we have to do this the right way. We have to regulate it. It has to be clinician guided access from a proper provider. The integration is so important because, as I mentioned during my experience, it unearthed a lot of things, and you have to deal with those things. And how do you deal with them? Most people can't deal with them on their own. And so you need a professional to help you kind of pull out, I think, some of the learnings and some of the experiences that you dealt with. And we call it in the space, you call it integration. You can call it therapy, you can call it coaching. It's just working to continue on, the healing journey, if you want to call it that.
Seems to me what you got from this experience, which allows you to handle the regular ups and downs of life, is by seeing every time there was darkness, and graphic images or whatever, you would then get to family and you would see your wife and your kids, and you would, it gave you hope.
Yeah.
Like, when you have purpose.
Yeah.
Purpose in life. What's my purpose? Well, you're no longer in, you're out of the SEALs in active duty, and, you're not saving the world with, this, as Trump would say, very big, handsome guy, very big. He loves men. I think he as much as women. But your purpose is sort of, you feel like it's gone, right?
Yeah,
And then you see, I know what my purpose is, to raise these beautiful kids, to be with this beautiful woman, to, this is my family, is my purpose.
You feel like what's important then, right?
As long as you got that beacon, that light, that lighthouse, and you're in the fog, you can see that, where you're going. If you can't see it, like...
Yeah, well, Billy, what do they say? Everybody says the same thing when a person's on their deathbed. Like, do they talk about how their fund performed? Do they talk about the business meetings they had? Or do they really just care about being surrounded by the people they love, their friends and family? And that's what I think it showed you, right? And all those things are fine and dandy, but I think you always have to come back to, being a servant leader, helping others, being with your family. Like, that's most important. What'd you do for others? And because that's what you're going to come down to when your time is running out.
What's really beautiful about this whole thing is that now the two of you are deployed together on a big mission.
Oh, yeah.
To bring this to other people. So how soon after you get home and you're back together, do you go from, you just live together and get a period of just putting purpose back into your life, or do you get right to work on getting this treatment to others?
Yeah, I mean, why would we take a pause, right? Like, that's just, it's not in our nature at all, which we probably should have. But no, we wanted to get after it right away. I feel like I feel like I haven't stopped still. Some of my friends worry. They say, hey man, you should go to Thailand for a month and surf and just don't do anything. I'm like, well, we have a lot to do. But no, we got after it right away. We started, reaching out to friends reaching out to us.
The very first thing he said to me at the clinic was, this is it. This is exactly what the guys need. I love tackling impossible problems. I'm just kind of a problem solver by nature, and the harder the problem, borderline impossible, oh, perfect, sign me up. So, and we come from a community that takes care of each other and thinks unconventionally. So it was really on brand for us to just start. We started in a grassroots way. We never thought that we would maybe have an organization that has global impact now, or ended up in the Oval Office, but we certainly got started right away.
With close friends. So these were guys I went to Buds with, or I served and deployed with. So these were just...
Tell people what Buds is.
Buds is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. It's think of it as boot camp for SEALs. You have to go through boot camp and the other services. 175 guys start, 25 to 30 finish. That's you're forging.
I wouldn't last 10 minutes.
No, of course you would. Come on,
Get out.
And so these are the individuals initially, my close friends that I wanted to help because, yeah, like again, that's who we are. We want to help our friends.
Because you know that you can help them. You know, like, dude, I promise
I
you.
care. You know,
Yeah, well, we had to.
It's a weakness or strength. Like I care about people, right? And
Did you have to talk to the wives and say, trust?
Oh yeah.
You know, you're handling the women, he's handling the men.
100%. It was like I was handling the men, and Amber was on the phone all day going, I know it sounds crazy. This is a little crazy, but you got to trust me. Like it's like Marcus and I are together now. There's a reason for that. You got to trust me. Like we're not weird. We didn't turn into hippies and turn our hair purple.
I was also like just fundamentally disconnected from the notion that just because you go overseas and see combat, you're rubber stamped with having PTSD. I think that there is a component of that. But what I was seeing in our community from, you know, just the deployment cycles, the years that we spent on that bullet train, the guys really wanted to get back. Like they really wanted to
we
be
like
together.
deploying. We like
they
serving.
liked to deploy. And so this notion of I can't live with myself because what I did, it just didn't resonate for our community. So I was sort of on this mission to uncover the real root cause of the suffering, which I believe there's a large part of traumatic brain injury and like the modern day weapons fire that the modern day soldier is exposed to that are attributing to some of these symptoms because of the neurological decline that I was seeing. And so I was on a mission to sort of prove that there was more to the story, which is where the connection with Stanford came in and the study that we did together that more or less proves that.
And we're not doctors, PhDs, right? Like we're just see the effect that it was having, and we needed these experts to help us kind of define this and quantify it and provide us data and research. And so we needed those experts to say, hey, what we're talking about is real. We need you to now gather this data so we can go talk to the decision makers to show them we're not crazy, but what we're saying is real. And if you show them the data, you pair the stories with the data, and now we can make, you know, real decisions at high levels.
The documentary is on Netflix. It's unbelievable, In Waves and War, and Marcus is kind of there shepherding some of the guys. And the change in who's the big guy in the end with the beard? Matty
Roberts.
Matty, oh God, Matty! I'm just like, oh, poor Matty. That guy's holding all kinds of shit in there. Please work for Matty. I really wanted it to work.
I love that you're rooting.
He needed it, man.
I love that you're rooting for him. We've been rooting for him since forever. I mean, I met him. He was a class ahead of me at Buds, and when I met him, I remember turning to someone and go, that guy is a real asshole. And that's how we met, but we became very close. And he's always that warm.
He's a teddy bear in a grizzly bear suit.
And he's loyal. And what he says, there's no bullshit that comes out of his mouth. You're either in his inner circle or his outer circle. But over the years, you know, Matty's been part of really shitty situations, right? He was part of the whole lone survivor incident. He was on the other helicopter, watched the first helicopter get shot down. He goes back after he kind of gets through that, and then he gets shot up really bad. And you saw it in the film, he almost lost his arm. So he went through all these things, and then after that, you can see he never came back, right? He was so just angry and upset, and we were friends with him for years. I mean, Amber, I was deployed. Amber was bringing food to him while he was in the hospital, right? And we just were very close. I mean, he's family to us. And we just, over the years, we saw that he wasn't himself. And we were like, how do we get Matty to live a normal life? Because he's going to get out of the military and he's still going to have half his life to live. And we don't want him to be angry. Like, we want him to like enjoy himself, enjoy life, and whatever that looked like. And so we cared about him.
If we would have had to choose one person, like you got to hang it up, you can't do this anymore. Who's your one person to help before you hang it up? It would have been Matty.
Because if you can help him, you can help everyone else.
Yeah,
he was gone. I mean, he seemed like he needed it.
And that's why he committed too. So he was also on the fence about this treatment for a long time. And you know, he called his mom, and he was like, "Hey, like, what do I do here?" And she's like, "Well, if you can just help like one person, like one Marine, one grunt that's struggling, like, why wouldn't you do this?" And that's what he thought. He's like, man, if I can get better and then somebody watches me talk about this and they get better, that was his purpose, right?
We had to not only convince him to do the treatment, but
we had to convince him to be in the film too, which is you know.
Well, he did. Listen, he's a big, important part
He's amazing.
of the film.
Yeah.
And look, I want to say, I mean, your work with vets, which is veterans experiencing or exploring treatment solutions.
Good name.
Great name. Actually, hand delivered to you. Is kicking ass, and you got a real jolt of probably excitement on April 18th. Donald Trump is in the Oval Office. You're there. Joe Rogan is there, and Trump signs the executive order. This is the thing about Trump. He's like, wait a minute, what do you say? This helps people? These are our guys. We love our guys. Let's do it. Okay, here we go. And he signs it. Something like would take the FDA like forever. There's so much bureaucracy. He just EOs the thing. And all of a sudden, you know, they're doing good work in Texas on a state level, but now federal level, they're going to deploy some money for different clinical trials to get psychedelic assisted treatment available for people. I can tell you in my own family, I have a child who experienced something horrible. She does a different type. She does ketamine therapy and saved her life. And I'm not exaggerating, absolutely saved her life. I myself have done 2 psilocybin journeys. First one was pooping rainbows and like the happiest thing ever. I'm like, I don't think I'm not quite there yet. Let's do another one. Boom, right into the darkness. My own trauma from my own life. We all have it. Everybody's suffering. And I always say this, not often that somebody comes out of their weekly therapist session and says, oh my God, Dr. Weingarten has opened my eyes and my life is like I can see it. I'm back. No offense to these people because they're great for the aftercare. They're great but transformational, transcending the trap and the suffering that we all have. It's about neuroplasticity. It's about opening routes in the brain that are dormant, that it's getting over to a part of your conscience that is you can't experience any other way. I always think about what happens in, hardened prisons, maximum security prisons. These are all deeply traumatized, broken individuals that go on to commit. Imagine if there were programs, clinical trials in prisons. I mean, it goes on and on, the possibilities. But Trump signs this thing. He gives an injection to the cause like you couldn't imagine. I posted like crazy in support of it. You're there with him. Let's have a little fun for a second. What's it like being in the room? I've been in several rooms with the guy.
Yeah.
And he's just hysterical.
He's hysterical.
He loves a beautiful woman. He definitely saw Amber. I know that.
He picked out Amber right away. I'm biased. I think Amber's the most beautiful soul in the world, and so of course he would pick her out. But I just want to say, Billy, honestly, like how grateful I am and how important it is for you to speak out about your daughter that has had life-saving treatment through either probably IV ketamine, clinician guided, done the right way.
Yep.
Where she was probably on, meds before and nothing worked, and here she gets this experience. So just you talking about that, I think, opens up so many minds to go like, why aren't we doing this? And then you talk about your own 2 psilocybin experience. I just think this is so important because you're not sitting here with a long ponytail and smoking a
I'm not going to go party with it. Ever.
With a tie-dye shirt on. Like, no, this is just things that we need. We need these tools to heal. So just thank you for coming out and talking about that stuff, because when we started talking about it, we were scared to death because still in 2018 now, it was still a little stigmatized. Michael Pollan's book hasn't been written, so people didn't even.
Right.
These were still just like recreational drugs. So just thank you for that. And
we're doing a fundraiser in the fall for the Psychedelic Science Institute of Los Angeles. My great friend, Dr. Dan Kelly from St. John's, is a neurosurgeon in town, a very good one. He is at the forefront of raising money and trying to do clinical trials here in Los Angeles. So I'm deeply, and by the way, that is where my child received treatment, still does, on an intermittent basis. You don't have to do it all the time. It's actually like 3 months in between, 4 months. And
so good to hear.
The woman who's helped her is an angel. And so, a lot of my attention is in this area because I've seen the possibilities. And I just know what other way is there to transcend real suffering but to experience a part of your mind that you have never been able to access before.
Yeah,
It's the only way.
Well, thank you. So back to the Oval Office.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it was a blast. Honestly, it was a blast. It was surreal. Everyone asked, like, did you look around? I did, but I was so focused because there was so many people, and it happened so fast. But President Trump just made it very easy to talk. And there was, of course, my heart was beating, and everyone was a little nervous because here's the president. But he walks in, and you feel like you already know him because you see him every day, and you've already
every day,
right? So
every
you're like,
hour.
we know each other. And you opened it up for conversation, and a few of the other SEALs I was with spoke, and then Secretary Kennedy said, hey, Mr. President, I'd like Marcus Capone needs to speak, and I really respected that. And so I just gave my 2 cents about how I appreciated him signing this executive order. Like, we've been trying to do this for a while. This makes so much sense in our minds, in your mind. Why did this wait so long? And like you said, the president said, wait a minute, this is helping people. We're going to do this the right way. We do it under regulated guidelines. Like, why aren't we doing this? And he even asked, why hasn't this happened before?
It was obvious that he genuinely cared. He genuinely cared, and I think this expedites.
Well, he likes
a lot.
obvious. He sees like, okay, that's all the evidence I need to know. This is saving the lives of people who are saving our country and serving our country. Like, okay, no brainer, done quickly. He's not a red tape guy. He blasts right through.
Yeah,
he's going to say, he also loves the military. He loves a handsome military man. When you hear him talking, he's like, and then our Navy SEALs go in there. They're so strong. These beautiful, powerful guys.
We had some big guys up there, right? Like I would consider, me and the Luttrell brothers are not like your typical size Navy SEAls, right? Like, we're all 6'3", 6'4". I'm about 225. Those two pushing probably about 250. But you had like some of the bigger guys up there, and he loved that, and he loved being, surrounded by that, and we just loved being there. I mean, everybody was incredible to us, and
even though it happened fast, it's been happening over the course of years. We've been chipping away at the advocacy and education piece. We've been sharing our story. We've been hitting the news networks, local, national. And because of that, and this sort of chorus of voices that have joined us in sharing their stories as well, it finally reached the level of getting the president's attention. So, just all the hard work culminating in that moment was quite surreal.
And the conversation has shifted now. So the week later, we're in with the Secretary of VA and ARPA-H, and the conversation now is like,
is it progressing? Are we
big time? Like, the conversations were completely 180. They were, like, hey, we've been looking at this for years. We're super excited about the executive order.
And also, I just want to add too quickly that this is not ibogaine specific. There are a lot of psychedelics that could be really effective in treating a variety of mental health conditions. And so at VETS, we do write the most grant checks for ibogaine, but ketamine, psilocybin, MDMA, these are all compounds that are showing incredible promise for issues that are relevant within the veteran community, but are relevant to our society at large. Like you said, we're all carrying trauma. It manifests differently in everyone. And I think that for veterans, for the special operations community or SEAL community in particular, there's a lot of childhood adversity that maybe fuels them into service. And then, following their service, things kind of fall apart for many of them. But now they're serving as this population who can get the attention of the president and lead the way in helping all Americans who are suffering.
You can, I assume, donate to VETS, which I will definitely do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And how do people do that if they to support?
Yeah,
work?
you can come to our website. It's vetsolutions.org. We have a ton of information on there. It's our team at VETS is just incredible. They're the backbone of what we do, and there's so much information on the website. There's videos and there's courses and there's links to all types of information. So even if we can't write a grant scholarship for a veteran, anybody can come to the website and get a ton of information out of it. And so that's vetsolutions.org. Is there email too? Info?
Well, vetsolutions.org is the best.
Yeah, everything's there.
Place to go.
And your podcast is going. It's you guys are you're in my world here. Conversations with the Capones.
Yeah, there we go. So
how fun is that?
The story around that was the more that Amber and I got on other podcasts, we would start to see more donations come through, and large donations. And the marketing team just said, hey, you guys need to like step away from like the internal operations of like the grind every day, and you just need to be out more speaking about this. The more you speak about it, the more resources that Vets is going to attract.
And the more help we can provide. We get inundated with questions all the time and inundated with applications. When the film premiered, our applications spiked 800%.
Yeah.
So we just don't have the ability to serve as many veterans as need this. And
so the idea was like, why don't we do our own podcast, Conversations with the Capones, let us drive the conversation, and now we could expand awareness and we could bring more people to the conversation. And that was the idea around it. And we know, like everything else, it'll start slow and we'll gain following, and we just have to keep chipping away. This is not an overnight thing. We know this will take years.
Don't give up. That's what they say. Keep going.
Keep going.
And I just say this: if you have someone in your life who is suffering depression, anxiety, PTSD, victim of sexual assault or abuse or any type of this, and you're watching them not progress or get through it, and they go to their therapy appointments, and then they say the same thing the next week. It's the same conversation, and they're swimming in circles here. There's a few things to do. In Waves and War is really gripping about our veterans and the change they're experiencing. But the beginning place also is Michael Pollan's Netflix doc, which has been out for a long time, called How to Change Your Mind. That is, I'll never forget seeing this guy who had such tremendous OCD. He could not function. He could not touch his own child. Literally one journey from psilocybin, and he healed. I mean, honestly, healed. This is transformational stuff. So if there is that person in your life, and I'm going to guess there is, whether it's a friend or a family member, there's a couple places to start. How to Change Your Mind, Michael Pollan, and In Waves and War, Marcus Capone and his guys. Vetsolutions.org. These are all important places to go. And Conversations with the Capones, because you love them as much as I do, having heard them and spent time with them. Guys, I cannot thank you enough. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your courage leading the way, big guy.
Thank you.
And you, his absolute rock. And there's no question in my mind you aren't capable of doing any of this without her.
100%. She's the one. She's the engine. I tell everybody I'm just the paint that can get scratched and repainted, but this is the one that's driving, and I'm trying to keep up with her.
That is clear. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank
Billy.
you.
Thank you so much for having us.
And that is Hot Mics for today. Bye-bye.
Me doing me, right?
Right as sharp. That's insane.
Billy Bush, what a pleasure.
Another compliment. There she is.